The passage starts by talking about the trials of Jesus. We see that in these lines here. A few key phrases are: this is an extraordinary account of patient endurance, of willingness to bear the unbearable, and then, even more importantly, without any sense of blame or ill will. So Jesus did not harbor any blame or ill will against the Roman soldiers, or the Romans who tortured him, eventually crucified him. It is connected then with the idea of, or the quality of metta, or kindliness, as propounded by Buddha. There's a statement about this ideal, a statement made by Buddha, and the passage concludes by saying, a tall order is of course talking about these lines: even if robbers were to attack you and saw off your limbs one by one, should you give way to anger, you would not be following my advice. A tall order, yes, but one that clearly Jesus fulfills to perfection, stating, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Let's look at the options. Option A says, religious figures such as Buddha and Jesus often follow similar paths, say one exemplified by kindness and forgiving. This is quite distorted because this talks about religious figures. We only have the aspect of Buddha and Jesus. They follow similar paths is also distorted because there's a difference between the two aspects. Jesus is fulfilling this path, but it is Buddha who propounds this, who gives this idea, who advocates the ideal of the quality of metta or kindliness. So this is incorrect. Religious figures we don't see in this passage. We only see Jesus and Buddha. And then say one exemplified by kindness and forgiving takes it to the form of an example, but then that is a key aspect. It is not presented as an example. So overall, this is quite distorted. Option A is incorrect. Option B says, Jesus followed the tenets similar to metta propounded by Buddha, as Buddha had meant to advocate kindliness and forgiving, and Jesus embodied this in his final suffering, which is perfect because we talk about Jesus and his suffering. Yes, the order is slightly changed, but that's a minor issue. Jesus followed the tenets similar to metta propounded by Buddha. Buddha had meant to advocate kindliness and forgiving, and Jesus embodied this in his final suffering, the one that Jesus clearly fulfills to perfection. This finds reference in this last phrase. So B is quite valid. We can qualify B. Option C tells us there are similarities inherent in the philosophical views of Buddha and Jesus. This is true, as both preach the same tenets, although in different forms. This last part, unfortunately, is distorted. It says, as both preach the same tenets. Now, in reality, Jesus did preach kindliness and forgiving, but then that is not supported by the passage. That is outside information. The passage only talks about Jesus following this ideal, the idea of the philosophy of kindliness and forgiving, not harboring any blame or ill will against his tormentors. It is Buddha who preached this tenet. So yet again, we find that C is distorted. So C also is incorrect. Option D says, Christianity and Buddhism are built upon common philosophical ideologies which have tenets such as metta or kindness as their roots. This is even further distorted because it talks about Christianity and Buddhism while the passage is talking about Jesus and Buddha themselves. So this is quite distorted. B is incorrect. The correct answer is option B.